Over the last year, we've talked about a wide variety of different geographical features on this channel. That includes lakes, rivers, fjords, islands, and mountains. But there's a geographical feature we have yet to cover on this channel, that being a lagoon. Until now. And special thanks to one of my followers who insisted I made a video on this specific geographical feature. So in this video, let's talk about the Pamlico Sound, which is in fact the largest lagoon along the North American East Coast. And as always, this is Ellie, and welcome back to Urban Atlas. But before we start talking about the Pamlico Sound, let's take a few minutes to discuss what a lagoon actually is, or in this case, an estuarine lagoon. This is a shallow, semi-enclosed coastal body of water that has the characteristics of both estuaries and lagoons. And these unique aquatic environments form where fresh water from the river meets and mixes with salt water from the ocean, but with more restricted water exchange than typical estuaries. This means estuarine lagoons usually are shallow depth, typically less than a few meters. They're partially enclosed by barrier islands, sandbars, and other coastal features. Their connection to the open ocean is usually through a narrow channel or inlet, and their salinity usually changes with tides, seasons, and the amount of freshwater input. And thus, these unique geographical features usually serve as critical nurseries for fish and birds. And because of these unique features, estuarine lagoons are among the most productive ecosystems on Earth, but are also highly vulnerable to human impacts like development and pollution. One great example of this is, of course, the Pamlico Sound, located in the eastern coast of the United States, specifically off the coast of North Carolina. But before we discuss Pamlico Sound in detail, I want to take a minute to talk about the sponsor of this video. You see, videos like these and the ones you see on my channel take a lot of research to make, and the vast majority of that research is done online. And online research opens the doors for data brokers. Data brokers are companies that gather personal information about people and sell it for profit. They usually scan the web for details like names, addresses, social media profiles, and even court records to build detailed profiles on individuals. Unfortunately, this personal data can also end up in the hands of scammers and fraudsters. This can lead to spam, identity theft, and the unfortunate loss of control over your personal data. And this is where Ecology comes in. Ecology reaches out to data brokers on your behalf, requests that they remove your personal data, and handles any of their objections. And the whole process, well, it's automated. Ecology also lets you request removal from any data broker not yet in their automated process. Ecology ensures that your data is off the market by doing repeated requests. This makes their yearly subscription particularly beneficial. The best part is Ecology has 4 different types of plans, meaning there's probably one that's right for you. So if you're interested in Ecology, make sure you use my code and the link below to get an exclusive 60% off an annual membership plan. Alright, back to the video. So let's dive deep into this fascinating geographical feature to uncover its stories. From Blackbeard's final battle to its immense ecological importance. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why this sound might be one of the most important ecosystems in North America. Pamlico Sound extends south and then further southwestward, some 130 kilometers from Roanoke Island to Cedar Island. It is about 25 to 50 kilometers wide. And despite its size, it's not that deep. It reaches a maximum depth of 8 meters. However, on average, the sound is only about 1.5 meters deep. The sound is part of a larger, interconnected network of similar lagoons all along the US East Coast. This includes the Albemarle Sound, the Currituck Sound, the Bogue Sound, as well as several other lagoons. This is known collectively as the Albemarle Pamlico Sound System. With over 7,800 square kilometers of open water, this estuary is second only in size to the Chesapeake Bay in the United States. Now, what makes this into a lagoon is the fact that it's separated from the Atlantic Ocean by something called the Outer Banks. These are a long row of low, sandy barrier islands. The Outer Banks themselves are extremely fascinating and interesting and probably deserve their own video in the future. These 320-kilometer-long chain of barrier islands act as a massive natural breakwater. and only a handful of inlets connect Pamlico Sound to the ocean. Pamlico Sound and the surrounding region has a very fascinating history. The sound is named after the Pamlico people. They lived along the sound's mainland banks, and they spoke an Algonquin language. A smallpox epidemic in 1696 nearly destroyed the entire tribe, and by the early 1700s, only a handful remained, and these few survivors were either enslaved or killed in the Tuscarora War of 1711. Their distinct political entity was dissolved due to the cumulative impacts of disease and war. Pamlico Sound and its inlets was actually instrumental in settling the mainland communities of eastern North Carolina in the 16 and 1700s. It provided a channel for European ships coming across the Atlantic to deliver goods and supplies to new colonists. Moving forward to 1718, when one of the most feared pirates in the Americas was about to meet his end in these very waters. Edward Teach, better known as Blackbeard, had turned Pamlico Sound into his personal kingdom. These shallow waters were perfect for his operation, too shallow for large Navy vessels, but deep enough for his modified ships. From his base in Pamlico Sound, Blackbeard could strike merchant ships in the Atlantic and then disappear into the maze of shallow channels and marshes. The government at that time was powerless to stop him. You see, Blackbeard wasn't just a pirate, he was a psychological warfare expert. He had an aura, an almost demonic appearance that terrified his enemies, and most ships surrendered without a fight. In 1996, marine archaeologists discovered what they believe is Blackbeard's flagship, the Queen Anne's Revenge in Beaufort Inlet. The artifacts tell a story of international trade, maritime warfare, and the glory age of piracy. Beyond its fascinating human history, Pamlico Sound is one of North America's most critical ecosystems. This is where freshwater rivers meet the sea, creating a unique ecosystem that supports an incredible diversity of life. The magic starts with the water itself. The sound is what scientists call a brackish estuary, part freshwater from rivers and part saltwater from the ocean. This means over 200 species of fish call these waters home. Striped bass, red drum, southern flounder, and Spanish mackerel thrive in the nutrient-rich environment. The fishing here is so legendary that people actually travel from around the world to go fishing in these waters. But the real stars may be the blue crabs found here. You see, Pamlico Sound supports more blue crabs than almost anywhere else in the world. These incredible creatures can survive in both fresh and salt water, making the sound their perfect habitat. Above the water of Pamlico Sound is a crucial stop on the Atlantic Flyway. Over 400 species of birds use these waters during migration, including endangered species like piping plovers and least terns. And then there are the wild horses of the Outer Banks, also known as the banker horse, descendants of shipwrecked Spanish vessels now perfectly adapted to life on the barrier islands. This population has roamed here for over 500 years. This area is also home to dolphins, sea turtles, seals, as well as rare species such as fin whales, orcas, Atlantic gray whales, humpback whales, and even whale sharks. And because of this region's incredible wildlife diversity, it's home to the Pea Island National Wildlife Refuge and the Swan Corridor National Wildlife Refuge off the mainland. Pamlico Sound and the surrounding area has a fascinating hydrology. It's fed by the Neuse and Pamlico rivers. The Pamlico River is actually the estuary of the larger Tar River from the west. And like I mentioned previously, the Sound is well known for its wide expanses of shallow water, making the area extremely hazardous for larger vessels, meaning the shallow waters are susceptible to wind and barometric pressure-driven tidal fluctuations. And because of this, during hurricanes, Hatteras Island on the Outer Banks has witnessed the waters of the Sound rush towards the west, leaving empty sandbars behind, and then returning a few hours later in a rush, spilling over onto the streets and yards of entire villages. Another benefit or thing that makes Pamlico Sound and the Outer Banks special is that it's one of the only places on the East Coast where people can enjoy a sunrise and a sunset over the wide open water. And as you can imagine, the Sound is a mecca for water sports lovers. The combination of shallow terrain, small waves, and a steady breeze means that Pamlico Sound attracts thousands of windsurfers and kiteboarders to test out their skills on America's largest open water playground. And this is in addition to the thousands of vacationers who come here to enjoy the miles of pristine beaches and waterfront provided by the East Coast's largest lagoon. As we look to the future, Pamlico Sound stands at a crossroads. The choices we make now and in the next few decades will determine whether this incredible ecosystem survives for future generations. Rising sea levels could fundamentally alter the Sound's delicate salinity balance, and stronger storms could breach the barrier islands, turning the protected lagoon into open ocean. Development pressures continue to increase as North Carolina's population grows. Every new dock, every filled wetland, and every coastal development changes the ecosystem in subtle but cumulative ways. But there's hope. Conservation groups, scientists, and local communities are working together to protect this unique environment. Educational programs and videos like these are introducing a new generation to the wonders of Pamlico Sound. These young conservationists will be the ones making decisions about the Sound's future. Sustainable tourism is showing that economic development and conservation can work together. Visitors who experience the Sound's beauty become its advocates. From Blackbeard's final battle to modern conservation efforts, this unique lagoon has shaped American history in ways most people never realize. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like. And if you want to support my content and my channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and head over to my second channel where I post short form content, and subscribe to that channel as well. And as always, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.